2070 is decades away, but we already know it's going to be a big year for India. Because India plans to reach net zero emissions by 2070. Another clean energy target is just years away. India aims to meet 50% of its electricity needs with renewables by 2030. If India stays on track to meeting these goals, it will create a blueprint for clean energy transitions in the developing world. It will prove that development and clean energy transitions can really go hand in hand. And who doesn't want to be a role model in green and clean living, right? The renewable energy sector in India crossed a notable milestone in 2023. 125 gigawatts in renewable energy capacity. This is a lot, considering there were hardly any wind or solar parks in India just 15 years ago. And yet, 125 gigawatts is just a quarter of what India has committed to the world in green energy targets, which is 500 gigawatts by 2030. There's still around 375 gigawatts that India needs to create in the next 7 years if we want to stay on track with what was committed. There are two main ways that the Indian government plans to do this. One, there's another 60 gigawatts worth of projects already under construction, which will come up in the next 2 to 5 years. Assuming this momentum continues over the next decade, the government itself will expand the country's renewable energy capacity by 100 gigawatts by 2030. Two, the government plans to auction 50 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity every single year up until 2030. That's a total of roughly 300 gigawatts over the next 6 years. With these government projects and auctions, the total projected capacity of renewables could very well be 525 gigawatts by 2030, which exceeds what India has committed on the global front. But before we get blown away by how much renewable energy we're producing, there's some things you should know. Installed capacity is not the same as electricity generation. Capacity is the maximum possible output a generator can produce under ideal conditions. This is measured in gigawatts, megawatts, or kilowatts. Generation, on the other hand, is the amount of electricity that is produced over an hour. This is measured in megawatt hours or kilowatt hours. Capacity, therefore, is the highest possible estimate. Generation is the actual figure that has any real meaning. The government has been touting its capacity in every publicly available figure, and this is definitely something noteworthy. But this figure is also a very misleading way of representing the ground reality. The government has made it fairly complex for citizens to find data on the ground reality of electricity generation. I combed through the Power Ministry's website, and they do in fact publish monthly reports on electricity generation by state and pan-India, with a separate section for renewables, which means that they do collect and monitor this data extensively. And while they have a provision for annual reports from the same electricity generation, there's not a single published report in this section since the dawn of time. From the data in their monthly reports, I calculated the annual figure myself for 2021 and 2022. What I found was shocking. For all the renewable sources combined, electricity generation was 15 to 24% of installed capacity. That's less than 1/5 of the energy that these power plants were built to make. There are legitimate reasons that can account for some portion of this enormous gap. For example, solar energy can only be generated for 12 hours a day, of which 4 hours or less are optimal for peak generation. Another legitimate reason for this disparity is routine maintenance or repairs, which can affect these numbers temporarily. But to consistently produce less than 25% of maximum capacity, there needs to be an explanation, and a public one. One useful report did come out of the Power Ministry recently. It gives us updated projections of what India's energy mix for the power sector could look like in 2030. 73% of India's power currently comes from coal, which is expected to go down to 55% by 2030. Renewables is projected to rise to 31% in 2030 from around 12% right now. The Power Ministry says that for these transitions to happen, many coal plants will be retired by 2030. This part of the roadmap isn't going according to plan because the energy demand is rising every single day, and renewables isn't equipped as of now to pick up the slack. coal and fossil fuels can. What India has managed to accomplish and what it still plans to do in the area of renewables is impressive. Renewable electricity capacity is growing at a faster rate in India than any other major economy. These new capacity additions are on track to double by 2026 and quadruple by 2030. But these massive expansions are not quite translating to electricity generation in the same way. There's still a huge gap between the capacity being built and generation in real terms. This needs to be investigated and addressed if renewables are to make any tangible impact on India's energy mix. India's energy mix can't be viewed in a silo. It is actively working on bringing millions of people out of poverty and providing them access to energy at affordable rates. Every year for the past decade, 50 million Indian citizens have become first-time electricity users. That's mind-blowing if you think about it. 50 million a year. Electricity is one aspect of energy needs, but it doesn't consider many other uses of energy like transportation, cooking, and industrial applications. Every year, India is also adding a city 3 times the size of Mumbai to its urban population. And this is made possible by lots of construction of new buildings, factories, and transportation networks, all of which require energy to sustain. India's sheer size and its huge scope for growth means that its energy demand is always growing, and growing by a lot. Coal and oil have for all these centuries served as bedrocks of industrial growth and modernization in India. And old habits die hard. The expanding energy demand is being met partially by renewables, but coal and fossil fuels are still dominant and growing in absolute terms year after year. Till we fix the disparity between capacity additions and electricity generation, the impact of renewables won't be anywhere close to its full potential. There's also an underdog in the clean energy space, nuclear fission, which I've discussed in detail in a separate video. It needs our support and could make a massive difference to India's energy mix. The energy of the future is clean and limitless. But today, clean energy still requires big investments in R&D, strong policy, and public support. There's a lot more from the world of clean energy coming your way on Biotech. See you in the next one.